Hey everyone, I wanted to show you guys a game from the Nimzo and a line that I face a bit, and it's pretty obnoxious. So we've got the Nimzo here, and we play knight f3 as usual, and they go c5, which in my opinion is the most challenging, or at least for me, the most frustrating line in the Nimzo, because the characteristics are quite a bit different than the lines where they play d5 and I get to exchange and I get a pawn structure that I know better. But this one's quite tricky. So we go bishop g5, going for our standard setup that we have. And here, black played a move that I find obnoxious. Even though it's not usually played that often, I guess it's not generally considered that good. Black took on the knight and doubled the pawns. Usually they want to wait till we waste this tempo, but frequently I face people who do this automatically. Now we do cover queen a5 in the course, h6 is covered, and c takes is covered, but this new move, capturing on c3, is not, and so I wanted to try to find a better way of playing against that, because I struggled against this idea. So after takes, we capture back, of course, it's the only option, and then queen a5. This was their idea, is black is really trying to get knight e4 in, and with pressure against this c3 pawn. And it's not easy to know what to do about it. We would love to maybe just take the knight and mess up his structure, but this is going to cost us a pawn and probably a rook, or we're gonna have some troubles. So we can't really allow that too easily. But it's something like bishop back to d2 just feels lame. He gets knight e4 anyway. Maybe I play e3, and I don't like this kind of thing. I can kick him back out, but I just don't like this. So I looked at queen to c2, which defends this pawn. It seems like it prevents knight e4, but it just doesn't. So that's not a thing. Um, Black can play knight e4, and then we really do probably have to come back to bishop to d2. But here he chose to play c takes, giving us these double isolated pawns on an open file, which sounds terrible. Like, when you first think of this, I really don't like this for white. But after looking at this game for quite a long time, I got the idea that maybe we're going to have tremendous play for it. So we capture the knight to ruin the structure. We wanted to play knight takes, but we would lose our bishop, so this is the only way to do that. So takes back. Now we take back with the knight. And so already we're starting to see that black maybe has some problems too, because getting this bishop out is going to take a while. This queen's always touching this pawn, so it's tough to get the rook out. I didn't mean to play it to f8. We, of course, maybe g8. And then this rook's also kind of entombed, where we have some pretty natural development. Black chose d6. I guess he didn't want to trade the knight, but that's almost certainly his best option. He's going to try to go after our c4 pawn immediately. So we play g3. We don't want to play e3 and just have our bishop butting up against the backside of a pawn, but this lovely diagonal, along with this open file we have, we're going to get a lot of pressure against b7, and we're going to make it really awkward for him to develop. So knight to d7, he wants to go to b6, he wants to go to e5 and just take a pawn. We got bishop to g2, and then knight to e5, and now rook b1. And we're doing great now. We have this knight out. His king's not sure where to go. Our queen's got good pressure. We're ready to castle. Everything's looking good. Here, black played queen to c7. I guess wanting to defend this pawn, and have the knight be supported on c5. It was totally possible to take immediately. We have rook b4. We want to avoid this pin, or sorry, not pin, but fork, which would be obnoxious. And then after something like d5, we just castle, and we're probably going to end up with something pretty similar to how the game went. So queen c7, and now we castle, and knight takes c4, and then we just rook fd1. He played this d6 move, which made this pawn a bit soft, so we've really got every one of our pieces working and doing things. Whereas black has spent time moving his queen back and forth. He spent 3 moves on this knight. He spent 2 moves with the bishop. And so we're just way ahead on tempo. He plays a6. He doesn't want knight to b5 to come, hitting this d6. So we play queen to e4, just continuing to put more pressure here, but we're also looking at coming over to this side of the board and touching against both of these pawns, which are a bit weak as well. So he chooses rook b8, really wanting to get this this pawn move in and protect the pawn, be able to get the bishop out. Maybe he wants to play b6 and bishop to b7. D5 is actually not that desirable. I looked at D5. I thought it was interesting, but because it shuts this bishop out and it makes this pawn seem like it's great, but we end up with weakening some squares. I thought that queen h4, f5, because we're threatening e4. Anytime there's d5, and this is going to be a theme in the game, anytime there's d5, e4 is going to come and blast things open. But after queen h6, we're threatening to come here, and we're probably going to pick this pawn up. We have a nice outside pass pawn. His king is still in a pretty shaky looking situation, so I don't think he wanted to go for this. So rook b8, and we play rook b4 anyway, and now he plays d5. I think b5, I mean, he just played rook b8, why wouldn't he play b5? But so b5 makes more sense, but I still think we're doing okay. Queen h4, f5 again, just trying to stay off the line. Queen f6, and we're not quite winning the pawn yet, but there's we still have lots of pressure on this side of the board. So bishop to c6 check, trading off the bishops, which for me seemed like a strange move, but there's honestly not anything that we can do to stop that. I mean, if we come back, black is totally ready to play bishop to b7. And by getting rid of the bishops, we allow this move a4, and we're going to end up with a lot of pressure against this pawn as well. And these rooks are disconnected, the king's in the center, we just have better coordination. So I think we're still better. But d5, and so queen h4, getting out of the way. We're gonna go grab after this pawn, but we really want this e4 move. That's our big idea. King e7, which seems like a natural enough move. Just defend the pawn, connect the rooks, but turns out it's not so amazing. So e4, and he couldn't come up with anything better than takes. He didn't allow us to take and be able to open this. So, for example, something silly. I mean, maybe this isn't silly, but just don't even ignore the fact that we're going after this pawn, but you can just capture, can't take back with a rook, and I don't know, this is going to start looking terrible. We're going to put rooks on files. We can come up here and attack whatever blocks in the way. This must be terrible. So it captures, and of course, not of course, we expect a move like queen takes, but I kind of ruined the surprise here. But rook takes c4 is a really, really nice tactical idea. The point is that after the queen takes, we do play queen, and we have a pretty nasty threat. We're threatening knight to f5, which would be a discovery on the queen. And it's not easy at all to see what to do about this. He played queen c7, I guess just bringing the queen back, but this leads to almost immediate punishment. But even taking, and after knight to f5, and the queen, and he drops back, this is still quite a terrifying position, and it's really difficult to see how we're going to how black's going to survive. But this was probably the best chance he had. But after queen c7, we had knight f5 anyway, and then king f8 is a pretty big mistake, but it's tough to see what to do anyway. But king f8 allows this check. You can't come here because you have this cute mate. So you must come back to this side, and after this check, takes, drop a rook, it's already over. Even if you weren't dropping a rook, this is just checkmate. So quite a nice game showing an interesting setup when we have these double isolated pawns. We go for really quick development with this g3 idea and pressure along the long diagonal and with the ideas of just letting this pawn go. We don't even care about this pawn. We're just going to develop quickly and make lots of threats and make it awkward and uncomfortable along these B, D, and this long diagonal. We'll have tremendous play with those. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys, and I hope you enjoyed the game. Bye.